Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. This will be the continuation of Landscape After Cruelty. This will be Part 4, Chapters 7 and 8. Chapter 7. Bakugo tenses. This could make or break this whole damn thing. If even one person spots him, it's all over. He's dead fucking meat. Bakugo, what are you doing behind the couch? Fucking hell, Kirishima. Bakugo dives into a roll and pops up, arms crossed. I don't know what you're talking about. Kirishima stares at him. He's in one of those stupid muscle shirts that he started favoring in second year. Mina peeks over his shoulder. What you doing down there, Blasty? I'll kill you, he threatens, but it's ruined by the way Bakugo tries to peek over their shoulders to look at the door. There you are, Bakugo. Bakugo doesn't jump several feet in the air like a cat. That would be ridiculous. Mina's eyebrows say otherwise. Icy hot, Bakugo says reluctantly, turning around to face him. Where the hell had he come from anyways? Todoroki Shoto stands there, one eyebrow barely ticked up. His long hair is pulled back into a braid today, flopping over his shoulder. Are you ready to go? Bakugo tisks. I don't see why we all have to go at once, he grumbles. I could just come by later. In terms of time management, it's smartest for us all to be there at once, Todoroki says. So Midoriya can go over everything one time instead of 3 times. Whatever, he says. I'll see you around, Red, Ripley. Mina and Kirishima watch the pair leave, Todoroki trying to make stilted conversation while Bakugo mutters angrily. That is so weird, Mina said. Kirishima grins, all sharp teeth. I'm so proud of him. Deku's rented out a classroom for them to work this evening in. When Todoroki and Bakugo pull up in front of it, Hitoshi Shinso is already waiting outside, leaning against the wall and staring at the ceiling. He rolls his neck to look at them, and that creepy little smile that makes everyone think that he's the second coming of Aizawa crosses his face. King Explosion Murder, he says. Parasite, Bakugo says, giving him a short nod. Shinso's gaze shifts to Todoroki. Todoroki? Todoroki's stiff next to Bakugo, to the point where Bakugo shoots him a weird look. What's the deal, Katy Perry? Bakugo says. Shinso's smile widens. Yeah, Todoroki, what's the deal? There's something a little vicious in Shinso's voice that Bakugo picks up on. Todoroki doesn't say a word and it clicks. Don't be a dick, Icy Hot. Bakugo snorts. He goes and knocks on the door to the classroom 3 times. Red wants to come spar with us next time, he says to Shinso. Shinso finally breaks his one-sided staring contest with Todoroki. Yeah? What time is good for you next week? Bakugo frowns. Test on Monday that he has to make sure his idiots don't fail. Essay he'd like to clean up more on Wednesday. Thursday work? Shinso shrugs. Good for me. Todoroki's wearing his I find this human interaction puzzling for some reason frown. Bakugo ignores him, and the door swings open. Deku stands in the doorway, his hair pulled back into a sloppy bun and an open-neck henley on. His grin is excited, sharp. I'm so happy to see you all, he says, and stands aside to usher them in. It makes Bakugo grin a little at the way they all just tower over poor Deku, though Shinso might be the tallest. He's definitely the lankiest of them, however, and Bakugo makes a mental note to bring that up in the next sparring session. Skinny bastard needs to bulk up a little more, or he's going to get snapped like a twig. They all drop into chairs without being told, Bakugo and Shinso relaxed and splaying out their legs, and Todoroki tight and controlled. Deku stands in front of the teacher's desk, at the front of the classroom almost vibrating. Okay, Deku says. First things first, I can't tell you how much it means to have you 3 showing off my designs for the showcase. It's just... He waves his hands. You 3 are the perfect group, and I'm so happy and excited to work with you. He grins. As I'm sure you figured out, all my paperwork got approved. For the next semester, I'm in charge of any and all your costume and support needs. Congrats, Shinso offers. His weird smile is taking on something warmer, more real. I'm excited to see what you come up with. Deku beams at him. Thank you. So basically, we're going to be working on refining your costumes/support items for the next good while, working through any and all kinks that might show up, fit, comfort, power, whatever it is. Then at the end of the semester, you'll be put through a obstacle course of sorts to basically show off all the gear to a panel of judges. Obstacle course? Bakugo asks. It's a good way to show off how the support gear is going to work in real life versus laboratory conditions, Deku explains. It won't just be the judges panel, of course. There's an audience with companies and agents and spectators, too. He smirks at the 3 of them, looking mischievous. I know you guys have a big stage fright problem, so maybe work on that. The 3 boys sitting in front of Deku grin like wolves, while Todoroki's mouth ticks up, which is basically the equivalent. None of them have ever had a problem with showing off. That's basically it, Deku shrugs. I'll have a schedule that I'll send to the three of you about fittings and lab testing and everything, but those are the basics. I'm really excited, you guys, he says. Of course, Midoriya, Shinso says. It's no trouble. Well, it's a little bit of trouble, Bakugo says, smirking at Deku. Deku just rolls his eyes. Your whole life is a little bit of trouble, Kachan. Shinso barks out a laugh, one of the hoarse, hyena ones that he only does when he genuinely finds something funny. Kachan? He grins. Bakugo glowers. Oh, fucking hell. Shut the fuck up, brain rot, he says, and shoves Shinso. Shinso just moves with the push, still grinning. Where the fuck did that come from? We grew up together, Deku says, pink under his freckles. It's a, childhood nickname. Shinso's laughter stops a little too abruptly for it to be natural, and his gaze cuts towards Bakugo. Oh, fuck. Shinso spent way too much time in Bakugo's head for him not to suddenly and completely understand what the hell's going on here. Are you? He says, his voice light. Imagine that. He stands and then says, Midoriya, send us the schedule and everything. I really am excited to get to work. He tilts his head then. Bakugo, let's take a walk. Bakugo grits his teeth and stands, hands clenched into fists. Deku's frowning now, looking between the two of them like he's not sure what's going on. Whatever, he says, scowling. Shinso's at the door waiting already, and Bakugo pauses in front of Deku. It's fine, he says directly to Deku, a little quiet. Thank you for asking me. Again. And he squeezes Deku's shoulder as he passes. Deku's eyes are wide and his pupils are blown. Kachan, he says, his voice a little higher than normal, but Bakugo's already at the door with Shinso, shoulders hunched. Let's go, he says, not looking back, and so he doesn't see the way Deku watches him go with a soft, open mouth and the way that Todoroki looks between the two of them with a furrowed brow. The ensuing conversation with Shinso is not fun. Bakugo regresses so hard during it Shinso threatens to put him under and pull the necessary details out of him, which finally makes Bakugo start talking. Shinso apparently has been friends with Deku since he had transferred, and has a very good idea of Deku's past. He's also been inside Bakugo's head a lot more than anyone else, and even though Shinso's a good man who respects Bakugo's privacy, sometimes things leak through despite all the efforts. Right, Shinso says, and his eye bags look darker than ever. I don't know why I never made the connection before. Bakugo shrugs, uncomfortable. It's not something I'm proud of. Shinso tilts his head. No, I see that. Bakugo represses a shiver. Shinso sees a lot more than that, the creepy fuck. So what are you going to do? Bakugo scowls. What do you mean? Well, you should probably tell him about using his hero design at some point, Shinso points out. I can't do that, Bakugo says immediately. Why not? It's fucking creepy. It's not that creepy. It is. What? Shinso says, a little exasperated. I honestly don't think it is. You used a pretty decent hero design for a couple of years, and yeah, it's not like you guys were on, good terms. Bakugo rolls his eyes at that prevarication, but Shinso just bulldozes over it. But it's also not the end of the world, and I don't think Midoriya, of all people, would be mad. Shinso's mouth is soft. I'm pretty sure he thinks you walk on water, so he'd probably be ecstatic. It's not right, Bakugo says, a sour taste in his mouth and a familiar twisting in his gut. The reason Bakugo likes Shinso is because he always knows when to back off. All right, he says. Have it your way, but think about it. And Bakugo does. Bakugo thinks about it a lot over the next month and a half. He thinks about it through essays and tests and meetings with his advisor about career paths. He thinks about it through every late night he spends with Deku in the third-year workshop, at the table that's been colonized as not just Deku's, but as theirs. Theirs because it has rows of perfect glass squares from Deku's experimenting, a rough cartoon from Kirishima of Bakugo as a human firework taped to the surface, piles of applications and research on hero agencies, a growing collection of half-melted plastic water bottles because Bakugo had accidentally made a bomb the one time that he'd used a metal one, and stacks and stacks of sketchbooks and notebooks and the occasional legal pad of Deku's going back years. Hey, Bakugo says one night, it's 3 weeks till the showcase, and Deku's eye bags are back, but his eyes are so bright. It's another one of those late nights Bakugo couldn't have dreamed of back in his first year. 10:30 on a Thursday. Bakugo's got 2 agency profiles scattered in front of them, his own scathing notes in red pen joined by Deku's analysis in blue. He likes the sight of it, more than is probably okay. Deku's got an impossibly tiny screwdriver in hand, tightening up something to do with the microphone in Shinso's mask. The rest of the mask is in 3 or 4 pieces, innards splayed to the sky. Yeah, he says. He sounds distracted. A green curl falls in front of his eyes, and he blows it out of the way, making a small, frustrated noise when it bounces back into place. Without thinking, Bakugo reaches out and tucks it behind his ear. Deku freezes, still staring down at the screw he has yet to finish tightening. Bakugo swallows hard. You have an idea of where you're going after this? Deku looks up slowly. His eyes reflect the light a little funny in the bright, overhead fluorescence, making his pupils look gray, eyes like marbles. Some, he says. It's one of the things they haven't talked about, really, which is odd in retrospect. Where they'll go after, what they want to do, specifics beyond be a hero and help people. Bakugo waits. He's learned over the months that Deku is the king of muttering and talking nonstop about things that don't matter. To actually get what he feels, however, can be like pulling teeth. I might go back to Tokyo, Deku says, and Bakugo's heart pinches a little. Yeah? There's some research labs that are doing amazing work there, he says. And there's always the island. The island is even worse than Tokyo. At least Tokyo is only a train ride away. Bakugo shies away from the thought that he's already thinking in terms of visiting Deku after graduation, that their friendship, he thinks he can safely say friendship, will survive beyond this. What about you? Deku asks carefully, watching Bakugo with the same keen-eyed gaze that makes him so good at what he does. I've got a few offers, Bakugo says. Best Jeanist, Endeavor. His mouth curls. He still doesn't really like Todoroki, though they've spent more time together in the past month or so. Bakugo can at least admit that a lot of what he thought of Todoroki being an asshole is really just Todoroki having, like, 0 social skills, but Endeavor is a straight bitch. Ew, Deku says, wrinkling his nose. Now, tell me who you're actually considering. Bakugo gives a half grin at that. Goddamn, nerd. Stop reading my mind or I'll think you're cheating with Mind Freak somehow. Deku just raises his eyebrows at him, but there's a little tilt to his mouth. Bakugo sighs, rubs a hand on the back of his neck. Mirko wants me, he admits. Deku makes a little squeak at that. She's never taken a sidekick, he says. She's not even at an agency or anything. I know, Bakugo says. I think she wants to start one. With me. Deku sits back, eyes wide. Kachan, that's incredible. That's insane. Yeah, Bakugo says. He can feel that he's going red. It's kinda unbelievable. Nah, Deku says, easily, like he didn't just gut-punch Bakugo with that one word. It's you, Kachan. I'd believe anything when it came to you. Bakugo stares at Deku. Deku grins at him, and he looks a little pink at his own daring, but there's something confident in the little tilt of his mouth, something that wasn't there a few months ago. Jesus, Bakugo thinks, dizzy. There's no way I can have all this. Bakugo stares at Deku and waits for the rug to be pulled out from under him, and it doesn't come. There's just Deku giving him that fucking smile. You have to keep designing for me, Bakugo blurts out. No matter what. If you go to Tokyo or the island or to fucking America, you have to. Deku's smile only grows wider. You couldn't stop me, Kachan. Bakugo shakes his head and something almost like wonder stares down at the letter he got from Rumi Usagiyama, detailing her ideas for something new, an agency that did things differently, everything he ever wanted. Then he looks up at Deku, who's fiddling with the screws again, a soft smile still tilting his face toward happiness, and wonders if what he wants isn't just sitting in front of him instead. Chapter 8. The day dawns bright, and for Bakugo, early. For Shinso, it's not so much day as the liminal space of very, very late night, and he will not stop complaining about it. Buck the fuck up, brain rot, Bakugo says, shoving him to the side. It's your own fault for not going to bed earlier. Shinso shoots him a poisonous glance. Sorry that we can't all go to bed at 8 p.m. like some decrepit old man, he hisses. I have insomnia. Pop a fucking Ambien next time. I'm about to find you a caffeine IV, Bakugo threatens. Shinso actually brightens up at that, the freak. Would you? That does not sound healthy, Todoroki says, looking very slightly askance at Shinso. Bakugo will take that improvement with both fucking hands, however, because Todoroki is actually answering Shinso now. Shinso looks vaguely gratified by that as well, if you look past the black eye bags and the general hatred for being awake. Okay, a new voice pops in. Thanks for being here. I know it's really early, but I wanted to go through a last test and... Calm down, Deku. Bakugo rolls his eyes fondly. We're all here and willing to go along with your 1000th check, even though we know your equipment is perfect. Shinso gives him a sly smirk at his declaration, and honestly, fuck him. If it wakes him up, however. And Deku does look a little more settled, his eyes no longer looking like a spooked horse. His hair is in complete disarray, pulled back sloppily into a short ponytail. Right, he says. Okay, great. You're doing amazing, sweetie, Shinso drawls. Should we get started? Todoroki says, and thankfully, that spurs everyone into action. Yes, Deku latches onto the suggestion like a lifeline. Can I see you move through your paces first, Shoto? Like we're fucking show ponies, Bakugo grumbles. We are show ponies, Shinso says. At least for this. If I'm not first, can I run and grab a coffee? You have 7 minutes, Deku says, not looking away from where Todoroki is strapping on a gauntlet. Shit, Shinso swears, and he darts out of the room with a surprising amount of speed for a man who claimed to have only gotten 2 hours of sleep. Bakugo just leans back and watches as Todoroki finishes dressing in his hero costume. Deku's done a hell of a fucking job, Bakugo thinks. Gone is the baggy Boilerman suit. Bakugo called Todoroki Mario for a solid month the first time he'd seen it. Instead, Deku had designed a sleek costume in the same dark blue and silver as the first, but it actually fit and was made of polyethylene. It's got nanometer-sized holes to keep the body's natural infrared radiation actually passing through, Deku had explained one late night. I ran some tests, so Shoto's are actually way higher than the average person's. Icy hot is fucking radioactive? No, Deku laughed. Wrong kind. It actually makes sense about why he's got such control over temperature, but his biggest problem is the overuse, when his body stops being able to handle such fluctuations. He pulled over several swatches, reminiscent of ones that hung in Bakugo's father's studio. Here, there's a double layer of black carbon and copper in between the polyethylene that should help keep the IR in or out, depending on the side, Deku explained. I'm literally just going to split his costume down the middle and flip whether it should have endothermic or exothermic effects. The effect, Bakugo thinks as he watches Todoroki run through some short exercises, was that Deku made Todoroki an even scarier motherfucker. Gone were the days where Todoroki would start to sputter out with simultaneous frostbite and heat exhaustion. The suit managed to keep his core temperature stable enough that he was able to use his quirk for almost an hour longer, right off the bat. Shinso pops back in, the coffee in his hand steaming up to his face. Is it my turn to show pony? He says. Yeah, I'll take a look at you next, Deku says. Shinso's costume is less flashy than Todoroki's. Deku had made some improvements to the voice changer, but the major change was the addition of body armor. Deku had managed to manipulate the stuff to be more flexible than the usual steel plate, letting Shinso have the range of motion he required to fight with any hope of success while still maintaining an NIJ rating of 3. Bakugo had watched Deku shoot the damn thing with an AK-47, and it hadn't pierced the armor. If anything, heroes without protective quirks were going to be fucking clamoring for the stuff. After watching Shinso's fancy gymnastics routine, he still regularly trained with Aizawa the bastard, Bakugo steps up to bat. Deku's face glows every time Bakugo dons his hero costume, and it embarrasses and delights Bakugo in equal measure. Bakugo's new costume also had more body armor. Deku had been scathing about the fact that he hadn't had anything protecting his vital organs or supporting his shoulders more. Bakugo had remained silent, deciding that discretion was the better part of valor in this instance. Shinso called him a coward. The elbow brace Deku had first sketched out for him so many months ago was still there, along with the added shoulder plate. The gauntlets, however, were an absolute showstopper. They were sleeker, better for the urban guerrilla fighting that so much hero work was. They were built entirely to minimize the recoil of Bakugo's blasts, were actually heavier than his old ones, with ports cut into the barrel. Deku had somehow managed to install muzzle brakes into the damn things, the result being that Bakugo wasn't on the verge of dislocating all his joints every time he let off a larger-than-average blast. This just meant, however, that Bakugo's average blast just got larger and larger. Fantastic, Deku breathes when Bakugo lands lightly on his feet in front of him. If there was a way to... Bakugo slaps a hand over his mouth. Nope, he says. Shut the fuck up. We're not nitpicking the morning of the actual showcase. Deku's eyes are wide and green above Bakugo's black glove. Bakugo gives him another second and a stern eyebrow, and only takes his hand away when he's sure he's not going to argue. But for the next one... Fucking hell, nerd. Don't you have to go get cleaned up or something? Bakugo says, exasperated. Deku looks down at himself. His t-shirt is streaked with oil from where he had loosened one of Shinso's shoulder plates. His jeans have a hole in the knee, and his sneakers... Well, that was enough said about those. Oh, do you think I should change? Deku says, blinking up at Bakugo. There's a pause. Deku, please tell me you weren't planning to go like that, Bakugo says, closing his eyes. Go change, now, before the fashion police has a heart attack, Shinso says, spinning Deku around by the shoulders. And take a shower. Wear the white button-down with your good black pants, Bakugo hollers after Deku's retreating back. And do not fucking brush your hair while it's wet. You certainly have an intimate knowledge of Midoriya's wardrobe, Todoroki says. Shinso whirls on him. Was that a fucking joke, Todoroki? He demands. For the first time ever, Bakugo watches something close to a smirk crawl across Todoroki's face. I'm so proud of you, Shinso says, hand over his heart, and he actually sounds a little choked up. Fuck both of you, Bakugo grumbles, but he's fighting a smile too, though he would kill them both for admitting it. He spares a thought to Nakamura, his therapist. They had one of their conversations last night, and she had complimented him on his progress. You're doing well, Katsuki, she said, her voice calm, only a little staticky over the phone speaker. I'm really pleased with your progress. You think I'm better? Bakugo had said. He was tucked into the corner of his bed, his knees up. It was a vulnerable position he didn't really indulge in outside of his room, outside of these meetings. I think you're making great strides, Nakamura had said gently. I think you started to get better the instant you decided to ask for support. Right, Bakugo had said, burying his face in his arms. His stomach still hurt, like it did every time they had to talk, but it wasn't so bad anymore. Didn't feel like he had Raccoon Eyes' acid boiling away in there. Thanks, he said, quietly, but enough that the phone would pick it up anyways. It's been my pleasure, Nakamura said. Do you want to talk about how you feel about the showcase? Bakugo had not really, but he did anyway. Now it was the morning of, and Bakugo didn't feel bad exactly. They had tucked themselves into one of the many rooms clustered around the UA Stadium. Bakugo was pretty damn familiar with the thing. It was where the sports festival was held. The sun rose higher in the sky as the three of them waited for Deku to come back. Bakugo was staring out of one of the wide windows, idly thinking about ribbing Shinso for his semi-anxious pacing when the door creaks back open. I didn't brush it like you said, but I don't really get what I'm supposed to do, Deku says as he enters, fiddling with his cuffs, and Bakugo is an absolute fucking goner. The white shirt stretches over the blacksmith's shoulders that Deku had managed to build up despite his small frame. His hair is loose and damp, leaving watermarks around his collar. His fucking legs. Well, they're fucking gorgeous, but they end in those horrific red sneakers. Todoroki, Shinso says, suddenly very loud, and Bakugo has no idea what his face is doing, but Shinso doesn't even wait for an answer before he's catching Todoroki with an iron grip on his bicep. I need to talk to you outside. What? Todoroki says, looking baffled. What do we need? Right now, Shinso says, and pulls Todoroki out the door past a confused Deku. What? Deku gets out before the door bangs shut, and now it's just Bakugo and Deku, alone in this quiet room. Bakugo still has no fucking clue what expression he's making, but he manages to say, quiet and too rough, You look good. Deku looks right back at him, though, and his eyes widen. Thanks. Bakugo takes a hesitant step forward, manages to gain speed and fake confidence on his way over. You're not supposed to brush curly hair, he says. Makes it fuzzy and lose the curl. Just let it air dry. It'll be fine. You know a shocking amount about how to take care of curls for someone with pin-straight locks, Deku says, and Bakugo's close enough now to hear him audibly swallow. Well, someone has to take care of your dumb ass, Bakugo says without thinking, and then flushes bright red. He drops his gaze, unable to look at Deku in the eye after that, and plucks at his sleeve. Can't even roll up your sleeves without help. Bakugo huffs and starts to carefully fold the unbuttoned white cuffs past Deku's wrist, past the burn scar, still shiny on his forearm, right up till it sits perfect and tight, just below his elbow. He reaches for his left and does the other sleeve, while Deku stays silent. The whole room is very quiet, just a murmuring air conditioner disturbing the air. The sun on Deku's white shirt makes it almost glow, bright with bleach and light. Bakugo swallows, and runs both thumbs over another perfect fold, a little unwilling to let Deku go. He finally does, however, and drops his arm and raises his gaze in one motion. Deku's face is like a punch to the throat. It's so open and soft, and Bakugo's stomach clenches, kind of in the way that it does in those therapy appointments, but also something different, something... You're going to kill this thing, you know, Bakugo says, because past the softness of Deku's gaze is something nervous, showing in the clench of his jaw and the faint trembling of his hand. You're so fucking talented and amazing, and Bakugo cuts himself off as Deku's eyes get impossibly wider. Kachan, Deku says, and Bakugo's mouth opens to tell him to fucking confess. I used your hero design till this year. That is not what he meant to confess. Deku goes very still. What? Bakugo wants to take a step back, give them some space, but he's tucked himself right against a fucking table. There's nowhere to go. The edge of the table pressing into his back and Deku in front of him. Impossible barriers. Bakugo says, fuck. The reason I wouldn't let you see my costume was because it was the one you fucking designed for me in middle school. Bakugo says, that's how fucking good you are. Even when I was still having issues with the whole damn thing, I fucking knew that you were the best out there. Fucking knew that no one could design for me better than you could, not a single fucking person. Deku lets out a long, shaky breath. Fuck, he says, and Bakugo catches his own breath. It's so fucking rare for Deku to swear, Thank you, Deku says, and there's a sort of helpless smile pulling at his mouth. Kachan, thank you. Bakugo's already shaking his head, and he says, no, you can't. I shouldn't have. Deku catches his hand in both of his own, wraps his scarred fingers over the material of Bakugo's glove, the one that Deku had designed for him. I'm not nervous anymore. Yeah? Bakugo croaks, and Deku still hasn't let go of him, and his freckles scrunch up around his eyes when he smiles, and his hair is starting to curl around his face and shoulders as it dries. Deku, The door opens. We have to go, Todoroki says. From out in the hall, Bakugo can hear Shinso say, for fuck's sake, have you no romance in your fucking soul? Bakugo flushes dark red and watches as Deku does the same. Well, The blood, just as abruptly, drains out of Deku's face. Is it really time to go? Todoroki nods. Yes. Sorry. He adds on awkwardly. The guy does everything awkwardly. Bakugo thinks it's a wonder that he even managed to pick up on the mood of the room. Okay, Bakugo says as Deku is still alarmingly pale. Let's fucking go. They make their way out of the room, head down to the floor of the stadium where Deku will make the last stand of his time at UA. In the dark tunnel, right before they head out into the harsh sunlight, even harsher judgment, Bakugo turns back to Deku. Hey, Bakugo says. We're gonna fucking kill this thing for you, okay? Can't lose with gear like this, Shinso says, slinging an arm around Bakugo's shoulders. Bakugo doesn't shove him off immediately, only to reassure Deku, of course. We're going to win. Todoroki chimes in like the champ he is, but he doesn't try to touch either of them. Baby steps. Hell yeah, Deku says, and his freckles might be a little bit too prominent, but his hands are steady. Let's go. Good luck out there, he adds on. It's only as they step into the sunlight that Bakugo releases his hold on Deku's scarred hand, and he feels like he could take on the fucking world. All right, everyone. This concludes Chapter 8 of Landscape After Cruelty. Chapter 9, the final chapter, will be next. I hope you guys are still enjoying this one. We're almost finished with this fic. Let me know your thoughts and reactions below, and as always, thank you so much for listening.